Welcome to Power, Policy, and Progress, the podcast where politics, policy, and the story shaping our future take center stage. I'm Madison Maynard, and happy primary day to those who live in Maryland, New York, South Carolina, and Utah. If you haven't already, make your voice heard and head to the polls. Every vote matters, and every single election helps shape the future of your community, state, and our country. So get out and vote today. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. It is only June of 2026. We are barely halfway through the midterm election cycle, and yet the political ecosystem is already looking past November and locking its eyes on 2028. In fact, if you look at Wall Street and the major predictive forecasting platforms, the race to see who will occupy the White House next has already generated hundreds of millions of dollars in active trading volume. Pretty crazy. So on Poly Market, institutional and retail money is fluctuating daily on which party will hold the presidency overall. Meanwhile, if you look at the core regulated prediction markets on Kalshi, traders are aggressively backing single individuals for the ultimate 2028 win. Down to the primary specific tiers for both Democrats and Republicans, we are seeing incredibly high stakes trading on who will actually secure the party's nominations. But while money talks on Wall Street, human sentiment talks on the ground. To help us balance the raw trading numbers with real world political analysis, I am thrilled to welcome to the show Elijah Spencer, a political science major at Howard University. He is a dear friend of mine. He is also a reoccurring co host on my radio show at Howard University, Time to Talk Politics. So, Elijah, welcome to Power, Policy, and Progress.
Hello, hello. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today with my good friend Madison.
Thank you so much for being here. So let's get right into it.
All right.
Yeah, Democrats! Woo! Yeah! Oh, baby, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes. Let's go to the Democratic side, everyone. Obviously, you can tell that we are excited to discuss this because honestly, this is the show where we are going to be honest about political views. I am honest that I want Democrats to win. I want Democrats to take the House, take the Senate in the midterms, and I want a Democrat to win in 2028. So, in this show, we're honest about that. We give our news, we give the news, we report facts, but we also give our analysis and commentary as well. So I'm just gonna say it. I need a Democrat to win 2028 because, like we just said before, okay, Trump is making permanent decisions all across DC, and it's because he wants to maintain his, what's the word I'm even looking for? His presence.
His influence.
His influence, yes. He wants to maintain his influence and his presence in DC. So please vote wisely. I'm just going to say that again. So let's move on to this polling on the Democratic side. So we have names that make a lot of sense, right?
Mhm.
We have Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Josh Shapiro, J.B. Pritzker, and of course, there are a lot of other names, but let's focus on these names first. But there are so many names that I feel like need to be discussed that are definitely in some of this, down here, the polling down here. But let's talk about the top candidates according to the New York Times polling research. So we have
there's a lot.
yes. We are not even at a place right now where it's like this is a definitive person who is going to be in the lead. There are things ever changing. I mean, we have a lot of the polling here. Kamala Harris is in the lead, but like I said, it is June of 2026. Things are changing so rapidly that, in a few months, will she be the, lead? Will she be ahead in the polls in a few months? We'll see. So let's talk about these candidates. And Eli, I'm going to pass the floor to you. Which out of these six right here that we see on the screen stands out to you the most and why?
Ooh, that's a very, very, very hard question. So, cards on the table, I am also someone who is partial to um the blue team, I guess you could say. I am very much myself on the more liberal side, and I definitely have a lot of critiques of the Trump administration that makes it imperative that we get someone who is blue into office. However, there are so many different factors when it comes to selecting this candidate. And even though the roster up here is decently diverse, we also need to deal with the political realities that a lot of the people who are voting aren't ready for women to be in office, nor are they willing for people of color to be in office. And we don't even know if they're ready for someone who is in a same-sex relationship to be in office. There are so many factors. Of course, the first person who stands out the most has to be Gavin Newsom. I personally am not that partial to Gavin Newsom, but there is no denying that he is being pushed as the front runner, even if, according to the polls from the New York Times, Kamala Harris is still at the forefront. People seem to be very hard pushing Gavin Newsom as the one who is going to be the candidate, to the point where people are even shutting down conversations about whether or not they would vote for Gavin Newsom, because it's pretty much in a lot of spaces already determined that he's going to be the candidate for the Democratic nominee of the 2028 presidential election, even though primaries have not happened. And I think it's because he's seen decent success in California, but he is also someone that people seem to paint as a moderate. And the DNC definitely got in their heads that one of the reasons that they lost the 2024 election, even though I personally don't agree with that analysis, is because they weren't moderate enough. And so in their minds, Gavin Newsom is someone who is extremely moderate, someone who is not going to bring up things that are super radical, like free healthcare for transgender, free gender affirming healthcare for individuals who want to undergo a transition, or free housing for immigrants, stuff like that, that they seem to think is very unsupported and are the topics that made them lose the 2024 presidential election. So Gavin Newsom is pretty much the front runner in my mind, as he is the person who I would dare say is the Democrat industry plant right now, for lack of better terms. He is definitely the one that a lot of people are pushing to be the front runner. Even though we still have the primaries, people can still go out and vote in the primaries. One thing is very important is, even if you don't agree with the primary system, it is very important that you participate in it.
It is so important. You have to vote in the primary, everyone.
You
It
have
is
to vote in the
incredibly important.
primary.
Incredibly important.
Even if I can empathize with people who were in the undeclared movement over the Israel Gaza-US conflict, still it would have been better to have voted for a candidate than to put undecided.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I even said that a few episodes ago. I said, for all of those who voted for Joe Stein or voted for the Party for Socialism and Liberation instead of Kamala Harris, are you happy now? Because now we're stuck with President Trump, who is putting us into more endless wars, who supports the Israeli government's genocide on the Palestinians. So at this point, it's like, are you happy now? So vote in the primary so you can get the candidate that you want forward. If you don't want a more moderate candidate, if you don't want someone who is an extreme progressive or whatever, it is so important to vote in the primary so you can get the candidate that you want. Voting for the Green Party, voting for the Party for Socialism and Liberation was a vote for Donald Trump ultimately, and is why he has brought us into more global conflicts and why Gazans are still experiencing a genocide right now. But to what you said about Gavin Newsom, I 100% agree that he is the token candidate at this point. I think he is more of the token candidate than Kamala Harris. I think that, what you said about sexism is 100% accurate. And I think that that is something that we need to think about and reflect if this country is truly ready for a woman candidate, specifically even a woman of color candidate. It is something that people really need to figure out. Are we ready for this? Is America ready for this? And I think Gavin Newsom eliminates all of those conversations because he is a white man. He is a white male. So he eliminates all of those conversations about, are we ready for a woman? Are we ready for a person of color? Especially after Trump, especially after the Trump second term. Are we ready for a woman? Are we ready for a person of color? Are we ready for a gay man? Are we ready for any of that? So Gavin Newsom eliminates all of those conversations, and it's the easiest option for the Democrats. However, my stance on Gavin Newsom is he is a flip-flopper. He is a flip-flopper. And actually, after we really discuss this, Eli and I, we are going to talk about our top 5 contenders for the Democratic side. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to also kind of elaborate more when we get to that. But he is such a flip-flopper to me, right? I mean, yes, people consider him a moderate for sure. And the issue that I have is with his whole moderate bit is that now he'll go on a podcast or even his own podcast and he'll say, yeah, the woke policies are something that we need to get away from. It's like, sir. But then tomorrow, he's going to act more of a progressive. He's going to have the progressive bit. And he's going to be like, yeah, and let's focus on issues that impact Black and brown people. Let's focus on issues that impact the LGBTQ plus community. I feel like he's a flip-flopper because why one day you go on a podcast, you're this moderate and you're talking about anti-woke and this, that, third. We shouldn't be focusing on woke, like the Bernie Sanders bit with the woke thing, except for he's trying to use that as a more of a moderate thing, right? But then he'll go another day and talk about how he's a progressive and talk about how he's for supporting transgender rights and supporting Black and brown rights and Black Lives Matter and all these things. I'm just like, you are a flip-flopper. I don't know where you stand, and that doesn't make me feel good.
That is not okay. And
that's not okay. It's like wherever the wind blows. Wherever the wind blows.
It is the quintessential. This is the only comparison I can think of. It is the quintessential for people who aren't into politics. It is the Disney movie mindset of trying to please everyone, but ultimately no one is happy.
But no one is going to be happy. Like you're trying to please everyone and no one is going to be happy because you're blowing with the wind. You're blowing with the wind. Who did he have on his podcast? I think it was one of his first episodes of the podcast. No, Charlie Kirk.
Oh, Charlie Kirk.
I'm like, sir. And then when they were having the conversation, he said something about the woke thing and how, Democrats shouldn't be too woke. While you're talking to Tucker Carlson, who was a white supremacist?
Charlie Kirk, but yeah.
Hello? Oh yeah, Charlie Kirk. He's a white supremacist.
He's had so many he's had more white supremacists than he should on his podcast.
Like, you have Charlie Kirk on your podcast, who is a white supremacist, as you basically are enabling his belief system by saying, oh, well, in the woke, I can understand why, identity politics is problematic. I can understand why, this, that, and the third. No, don't have Charlie Kirk on the podcast and do that. If you want to have Charlie Kirk on the podcast, do the complete opposite of what he did and combat the lies, combat the white supremacy that Kirk spreads. Don't have Charlie Kirk on the podcast just for you to literally enable his belief system, and then y'all are like shaking hands at the end. What a great conversation that was. No,
No,
no, no.
there is a reason. I know we shouldn't keep referencing something that I don't know if many of you have watched, but on on Madison's radio show, we were talking about how Hassan Piker has openly said that he will not be voting for Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
And while I do understand the mindset and completely agree, I think it is one of the most foundational problems when it came to the failure of Democrats to secure a victory in 2024.
Yeah.
The fact that we are falling into this herd mentality mindset already is not beneficial to anyone.
It's not beneficial. We need to have better conversations about this on the Democratic side, because if we really put it all out there, Gavin Newsom is a flawed
He is a flawed candidate.
He is a very flawed candidate. But like I said, all of the conversations about race and gender are completely eliminated when you talk about Gavin Newsom, and he's a safe option for a lot of people. But if you really dive into it, he is problematic. And even like you said, he's had too many white supremacists on his show. And then when you have them on the show, you're basically like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. No, I don't understand where you're coming from. I don't understand. If you want to have them on the show and have a debate, have a dialogue, and combat the lies and the misogyny and the bigotry and the racism, then do that. And I'm like, yes, that's amazing that you do that. But don't have white supremacists on the show just for you to then do what he did, which was just like, yeah. No.
And to talk about more of like a substantive critique, his policies in California are not the most popular.
They're not at all.
Not with citizens of California themselves, and definitely not to rural voters who see California as nothing but a cautionary tale to the rest of the country. And yes, Kamala Harris is also from California and has a history in California. But since Gavin Newsom is the current figurehead of California, he is going to inherit within his campaign all of the shortcomings of California during the present day. And that is going to lead to a lot of attacks from MAGA and whoever the presidential nominee is in 2028. Is he's going to have to endure a lot of critiques of California's policies when it comes to his bid for presidential election.
And I've said that when I've had conversations with people here at home, like when we're talking about potential candidates, I've first and foremost said I don't like Gavin Newsom because he's a flip-flopper, but also, which is very concerning for Black and brown people, we don't want a flip-flopper white man to represent us. But then also, the second thing is that him being the governor of California is actually a negative for Gavin Newsom. It is a negative that he's the governor of California, because even though California's always dealt with homelessness, California's always dealt with crime, California's always dealt with these issues, Gavin Newsom is the face of that right now. He is the face of a homelessness crisis, of crime is rapid and gas is too high and rent is too high and all of that. Gavin Newsom is the face of that, right? And the whole, even when we're talking about Ron DeSantis, right? People are fleeing away from California and they are flooding Florida, right? That has been a narrative for a long time, that people are leaving California or they're leaving New York and they are going to Florida, right? Gavin Newsom is the face of that. Gavin Newsom is the face of we are not going to want to live in a homelessness, crime is being committed by homeless people and all of that, right? Or if you walk the streets and a homeless person attacks me, or things like that, like the horror stories that you hear on the Republican side, it's going to be so easy for them to then have a attack ad against Gavin Newsom and say, this is a story of a woman who was attacked by a homeless person in California. Gavin Newsom didn't protect me. Vote for the Republican. That's such an easy attack ad for Gavin Newsom, right? you just hear the stories from the Republicans saying we are leaving California. It is a horrible place to be, and gas is so expensive, and the rent is so expensive. Like it's not expensive in across the country. Like rent is not expensive across the country under Trump because of this war, but whatever, right? So him being the governor of California is actually a negative for Gavin Newsom, and I genuinely think that that's something that he has to grapple with. And like I said, the attack ads are going to be easy for Gavin Newsom. It's going to be easier to have an attack ad against Gavin Newsom than it is even a Pete Buttigieg or even like a Josh Shapiro. It's just you don't. There's not really much you can attack like Pete Buttigieg on, like except for the fact that he is in a same-sex marriage, and Republicans are against the woke da 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 da.
Yeah.
But you have more to attack Gavin Newsom on than you do like a Pete Buttigieg. You just do. You just do. So I just feel that Gavin Newsom is a very interesting candidate, or future candidate, right?
He is
I
an
think that
interesting future candidate, and I would definitely say that it is dangerous to automatically assume that he is going to be the front runner.
yeah, I do agree because like people are worried about the race and gender thing. Understandably so. Understandably so, people are worried about the race and gender issue. They are worried after Kamala Harris. They are worried after Hillary Clinton. They are worried about that, and it makes a lot of sense. Who was able to beat President Trump? Joe Biden, a white man. You know what I'm saying? So I understand the worry about going to a Kamala Harris, or like jumping behind a Kamala Harris, or jumping behind, anybody else that's like a woman of color or a gay man or even like a Jewish man or something like that. Like I understand why people would be hesitant to do that and just be like, well, let me just support Gavin Newsom because, he's anti-Trump and he's a white man and he has a chance. During the primary, please, everyone, please think about the candidate who best aligns with you, right? Not just because it's a white man. Vote for the candidate that best aligns with you. And if you really look at Gavin Newsom, he has a lot of flaws, right? Like I said, California has had a lot of issues before Gavin Newsom, right? And I think that the issues are over exaggerated a lot of the time, if I'm being honest. But I think that there's always been crime, there's always been homelessness. So it's not Gavin Newsom's fault that there is all of a sudden all this crime, right? So it's not like he's the one that there was no crime in California and then Gavin Newsom came in and now all of a sudden there's all this crime. Like, no, like that's not the case. But still, it's so easy to use that against him. It's so easy to use that against him. So that was my stance about Gavin Newsom. And, it's dangerous, like you said, Eli, to just immediately say, yep, it's Gavin Newsom. Yep, it's
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom. I don't love that. I just don't love that at all. But what are your thoughts about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Because I think that she's shadow campaigning, but I think that she's shadow campaigning for a Senate seat more than a presidential run. So what are your thoughts on that? I think I definitely see her running for president in the future, wholeheartedly, 100%.
Yeah.
I see her running for president in the future. But she is definitely shadow campaigning, but I think she's shadow campaigning for a Senate seat. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, AOC is someone who's extremely popular with younger individuals. She is a brilliant public speaker, very much online in a good way, where she understands the benefits of using social media to her advantage. She's been out there with Mayor Mondami supporting him and making sure that she is trying to have a tangible, positive impact to help people weather the current political onslaught we are experiencing. She is definitely someone who I do see running eventually. I just don't know if it's going to be this current cycle. She's definitely someone who is young, youthful, and can bring a lot of hope. But I also do kind of see her as someone who is very focused on trying to make an impact within her community. And that's just harder to do if you're president. It really is harder to do if you're president. As much as
100%.
you could say that the entire country is your community, The work that she has done within New York has been very positive and very beneficial. And like Madison said, by being a senator, she would be spreading her reach across New York. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she wants to spread her reach across America in general. A lot of people.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. A lot of people would love to see her be vice president, though, which perhaps she'd be more open to. Yeah. But like I said, I just think that her focus seems to be on the boroughs of New York currently.
I 100% agree. I think that she is really focused on her own community right now, and that is her number one interest right now. So that is why I think she's shadow campaigning for senator, because I think right now she's focusing on her community, and then eventually she's going to want to expand her reach across New York. 100%. Right now, her focus is her district. Her congressional district is her number one priority. Every day, she is fighting for those who live in her congressional district. But I do see her have that dream to expand that reach across the state of New York first before a potential presidential run. I just do. So I think that she is going to run for senator before she runs for president, 100%. I think that she probably will be a senator for New York. I genuinely do. She is very popular in her state, and I think she definitely will be future Senator Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I do think that she's going to run for president, but not in 2028. But this is my one criticism of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She, in my opinion, and I'm going to do a podcast on this, and I'm probably going to have you back on to talk about this, Eli, because I want to talk about, the rise of democratic socialism, but not even necessarily it's not a bad thing. Even though I've said in previous episodes, I don't consider myself a democratic socialist, but I'm not that's not like a fight that I'm trying to I'm not trying to fight the democratic socialists. I'm trying to fight the MAGA fascist Republicans. That's my fight right now. But I just don't consider myself a democratic socialist. But what I will continuously criticize is Bernard freaking Sanders. Okay.
Madison does not like Bernie Sanders. And for the record, I am definitely someone who is more in line with democratic socialism. Me and Madison have had conversations about this. And apparently one day you guys will get to watch the conversation. But like Madison said, I am definitely more, even though it's technically illegal right now, I personally consider myself Antifa or anti-fascist. That is my priority. I am someone who is focused on making sure that MAGA does not maintain power.
That is the goal for me. That is my goal, 100%.
But yes, Madison, let's hear your criticism of democratic socialism and of Bernie Sanders.
So here's the thing, Bernie Sanders as a figure just irks my soul, okay? I need AOC and Zoran Mandani to distance themselves from Bernie Sanders. I need that to happen first and foremost, okay? I just do, because Bernie Sanders, if you want to have this rise of democratic socialism and we're trying to galvanize all these voters and get democratic socialism out there and all these things, you cannot do that with Bernie as the leader. You think you do because he's the one who kind of brought it out to the public with his run in 2016 and all of that. Bernie Sanders is horrible when discussing social justice issues. He does horribly with the Black vote. Horribly. That is why he never won a nomination in 2016, 2020. If he did better discussing social issues, he would get the Black vote and he would have been the nominee in 2016, especially 2016, right? He would have been the nominee, but he is so bad when it comes to social issues. Okay.
And let's be honest. It, of course, comes from a myriad of reasons, but democratic socialism and socialism in general does tend to do very poorly in Black communities.
It just does. It does.
Most Black people in America, whether you can argue for better or for worse, tend to be capitalist pilled, capitalist minded.
And that's how I am. That's how I am.
And of course, for me, in my opinion, that does come down a lot to how socialists tend to frame the argument as solely a workers
Thank you.
a workers crisis.
Thank you.
And I will, and if anyone who watches this wants to argue with me, I do think that one of my biggest problems when it comes to talking about democratic socialism or any left-leaning economic ideology tends to be the fact that it treats identity politics as just something that is done to divide the working class and not something that has become its own individual issue.
They treat it as a negative thing. They treat identity politics as a negative thing. And that is what Bernie stood for. Bernie stood for the fact of it is not a race issue that we should be focusing on. It is solely an economic issue. It has nothing to do with race and class combined and how that can impact poor Black communities. Systemic racism has nothing to do with it at all. Has nothing to do with why some Black people are dealing with an economic crisis because of systemic racism. That is not something that Bernie stands for. That's just not something that he agrees. That is not something that he's like, let's combat the issues of systemic racism. He isn't someone that is like putting two and two together, how systemic racism really impacts people of color. And he does not grasp that. And like you said, it's true that more Black people identify as capitalists than socialists, 100%. But maybe you would get more people on board, like a Zohran Mamdani, if you didn't just completely neglect the issue of systemic racism and how it impacts people of color to this day. What Zohran Mamdani did well in New York, I will continue to praise him, even though I don't agree with everything he stood for, because he's a Democrat socialist, and that's just not where I am. But one thing I can respect about Zohran Mamdani and why he deserved to win the mayoral race is because he went to Black communities. He knocked on Black doors and said, yes, systemic racism is impacting you in all of these different aspects. This is how I want to help you. Or just even going to Black media, even going to Black radio, being interviewed by Black newspapers, right? Like, that is what Zohran Mamdani did that Bernie never did. And AOC even does more of what Zohran Mamdani does. She is someone that goes to Black media. She is someone that addresses how systemic racism impacts Black people of all economic groups. But you know what I'm saying? Like, she is someone who acknowledges that. Bernie doesn't. And that is why it's problematic for AOC and Zohran Mamdani to be so attached to Bernie Sanders. And moving forward, when it comes to like AOC running for president, because I think she is going to run for president. If she's going to run for president, she needs to distance herself from Bernie Sanders. If she's going to run for president on a national level, she has to distance herself from Bernie Sanders. She has to, because the Black vote is so pivotal. It is so pivotal, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't continue aligning yourself with Bernie Sanders, who is someone who has continuously dismissed the idea that systemic racism impacts economics and how it is intertwined. And if you don't understand that, I will never support you, Bernie Sanders. I will never support you. And that is why more people are interested in an AOC, or Zohran Mamdani from the Black community. Black people are more interested in an AOC, Senate seat or candidacy. People are very interested in the future of what Zohran Mamdani can do. Unfortunately, he can never run for president, but, he has bright futures ahead of him, right? Black people are more interested in investing in the AOC or Zohran Mamdani, but what will be the icing on the cake for a lot of Black people is if they distance themselves from Bernie Sanders. And that is just my stance. So with AOC, I need her to distance herself from Bernie Sanders. That is the one issue that I have with her. Obviously, I'm not a Democratic socialist because I consider myself kind of what Pete Buttigieg says, a Democratic capitalist, like that type of thing. And when I talk about my top 5 contenders, I go into that. But I just feel that AOC has a bright future ahead of her in politics, and it will be a lot better if she kind of has her own identity away from Bernie on a national level. You see on the polling that she is ahead in 2 polls right here. She has
Yes.
43%, and then Gavin Newsom has 35%, etc. Right, and then even down here she has 20. What does that say? 6%, and then Buttigieg has 22, Gavin Newsom has 21, and Kamala Harris has 13. Right, so she has a good chance to run
AOC
in
is
future.
someone that you should definitely pay attention to. She is
For
an
sure,
individual with a bright future, a very, very,
100%.
very gifted public servant, and yeah,
100%. She's very, very gifted. She is very great at communicating, and she is younger, so she does really good digitally as well. She is a great option. I mean, I just feel that if she goes with this Bernie Sanders thing and they did the whole fight the oligarchy tour, I said, girl, like, are you why are you doing this whole tour with Bernie Sanders? Like, are you serious right now? So that just annoyed me. That's my stance on that. But we're gonna have like a deep dive conversation about that in a future podcast for sure, because we see the rise of democratic socialism, even where Eli and I live part time in
yeah.
DC.
Recent polling came out, and democratic socialism is definitely on the rise. So
And Janice Lewis George, a Democrat socialist, won the primary for the Democrat primary for DC mayor. And there's never gonna be a Republican that wins the mayoral seat.
so get
So
ready.
she will be the mayor. She will be the mayor.
So
So yeah.
get ready for Power Policy and Progress episode 20. Madison Maynard surrounded by 20 Democratic Socialists.
Oh my gosh, I would actually love to do that. I actually would love to do that. I cannot lie. Because I'm critical of it. I mean, I could dive into more of the specific policy wise, but for the sake of this candid conversation, that's why I'm being a little bit more broad. But that's what I'm saying. We need to do another podcast where I really dive into why I don't necessarily agree with democratic socialism. But that's for another day. But
But
I think that where we should move to now is just the names that we are surprised to see on the list. But the names that I'm surprised to see in the conversation is definitely John Fetterman.
oh yeah, that sticks out to me immediately.
Why?
Um,
Why is he on here at
John
1%?
John
Hello?
Fetterman, I mean, maybe, but I honestly think, in fact, I think he's done after this term.
He should be done. Bye. Adios. He should be
he's a
done.
one and done.
He 100% should be done. He should be literally done. Are you serious? Like, he literally ran. We just were talking about democratic socialism. He ran as a democratic socialist in 2022. Just for him to completely flip to be a MAGA conservative Democrat. So adios. And I don't know who the 1%, who is the 1% that's talking about John Fetterman. He would switch parties if he could. Right?
Yeah.
I remember him saying something about, I would never switch parties. Yes, you would. Yes, you would. If he could, he would switch parties. Right? And it's just clear that he lied so that he could win. And then now his real identity showed. It's insane. So what are your thoughts about that?
We'll even, like you said, with how unpopular he is with Democrats, we'll see if he's even re-elected. I think he will have to switch parties if he wants to run for Congress again or for president. I do not think he would do well in a Democratic presidential primary at all.
No.
Stranger things have happened, sure, but I'm definitely not willing to bet any money on it.
No, absolutely not. I definitely do not think that he is going to be running as a Democrat. If he ever runs for president, it will not be as a Democrat, wholeheartedly, 100%. What other names stand out to you that you're surprised by? Is there any other names that you're surprised by? I'm going to keep scrolling. Are there any other names where you're like, wow, I'm surprised?
I'm surprised by, but I will say since I saw him as one of the front runners when it came to the polls, even though he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't that popular.
Mm-hmm.
JB Pritzker.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
am from Illinois. I am an Illinois citizen. I live in the city of Chicago. I would be very surprised if JB Pritzker runs for presidential office. And I would also be kind of hurt because he is a very effective governor within our state. He is very popular and someone who is avidly going against the Trump administration. And he is currently campaigning to be reelected as governor.
Yeah.
So it would seem very weird to run for governor and then pivot to running for president. So I really think that is unlikely.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely as well. I think that he's focused on the state of Illinois, and I just don't see him running for president. I mean, I think it's good for him that he's even being mentioned. So maybe in the future, but as of
Maybe
now,
in the
I don't.
future. And I
Yeah,
think
maybe in
the
the
same
future.
thing. I think the same thing is for Shapiro. We can have a
Yeah,
conversation about anti-Semitism,
yeah,
sure, but I don't think that he's going to be running for presidential office. I think he is very much focused on Pennsylvania currently.
yeah,
We kind of see this. Not to say Gavin Newsom isn't effective. It's just that his tenure as governor is over. But the governors who are like very in their element and doing a decent job within their state, I do feel are less likely to run for political office just because they kind of have a comfortable foothold.
yeah,
And whether it be career stability or the fact that they are doing active good, they
yeah.
are less likely to run for office. So I would be very surprised to see someone who is actively serving as governor run for president. Vice president, maybe if they're selected,
Mhm.
but president, no.
I think that they could definitely both Shapiro and Pritzker could definitely be whoever the nominee is, or whoever is a front runner for the Democratic Party. I think that Pritzker or Shapiro could both be considered as vice presidential candidates for sure. I think that it would be kind of similar to like a Tim Walz situation where he's very popular in his state, but you never really envisioned him running for president when
Yeah,
he
yeah,
ultimately was selected. So I think it's the same for Pritzker and Shapiro. I don't necessarily see them running this time around. However, I definitely think that they would be on the short list for VP. And I think that they both probably have aspirations in the future to run for president wholeheartedly because I feel like that's most people that run, right? I think most people that run for any sort of office, a little bit of the back of their mind, their dream is to be president. So we'll see, but I think they'll both be on the short list for sure.
yeah,
But I really do want us to get into the our top 5 for the contenders. Our top 5 contenders, excuse me, on the Democratic side because I just want to hear your thoughts and we're going to do like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Eli, so I'm deciding, do you think that you should say your 5? I should say my 5 and then we discuss. What do you
I
think?
think we should. I think we should do. It's a show called Top Five Beatdowns, and the way they do it is like I say my 5, and then you say your 5, and then I
Uh-huh.
say your 4. Like kind of like that. Kind of like that.
Okay, okay, okay. So you say 5, I say 5, 4, 4, 4. Like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So you go first. Who is your 5?
All right. So for my 5, I am already going to break the rules and just say someone who I think I would want to run for office again in general. I am someone who is very like I don't want to have to choose between two evils.
Mhm.
Um and if I were going to see the Republican Party run someone, I would want them to run Nikki Haley again. I'm going to start off with that. I'm going to
Mm.
say I would want Nikki Haley to come back, not because I want the Republicans to win, but because I want good candidates in office. And Nikki Haley was someone who was able to actively stand against the pressures of the Trump administration and Donald Trump himself, even when it seemed clear that Donald Trump was winning. Nikki Haley chose to not back down and continue to put out a campaign.
Yeah.
And she has a very, even though she is a traditionalist, she has a lot of foreign policy experience
Mhm.
as a previous UN ambassador. And right now, America needs some help on the world stage. Absolutely.
100%. Hello.
And so while this is kind of my snarky answer, I do think that during this conversation, it's important to say, even though I'm going to, after this, focus on Democratic candidates,
Mhm.
the Republicans need to get their shit together and put forth candidates that are
They do.
competent and know what they are doing and aren't just playing populist politics.
Wow.
So if I had a pick of a Republican candidate, I would do Nikki Haley.
Wow.
But after this, I will go back to Democrats. Sorry for being cheeky.
No, you're good. That was interesting. If there was anyone on the Republican side that I would want to possibly be the president right now, it would probably be Nikki Haley. But isn't her son like a MAGA Trumpy? I forget. I think there's something with her
Yeah,
son with MAGA,
it's
but that's me
the,
this shoot.
the only points I can really give her, especially because of her flakiness when it came to Civil War comments, is
Oh
just
right, I forgot about that.
she was a very decent public speaker. She
For
has
sure,
a lot of foreign policy experience,
a
and
lot.
she
Yeah.
also was not easily bent when it came to Donald Trump's pressure, which,
That is
as
true.
we discussed with Marco Rubio and the fact that he's on the MAGA leash, if anyone is able to win without being on the MAGA leash, I think America is already heading in a much better direction, even if I'm not necessarily disagreeing with their politics. Of course, I want someone on the left to win, but if the Democrats can't get their shit together, Nikki Haley would be my Republican nominee for 2028 if she chooses to come back, which she probably
Yeah.
won't.
I don't think she will. I think her political office run career is over, honestly. I mean, if
I mean,
there
she
is
stood up to Donald Trump, and that's the death sentence.
that is the death sentence. That is the death sentence. I mean, if in the future, and she's not too old at this point, but in the future, if there's like a more sane Republican who wins office, I see Nikki Haley maybe being in the cabinet in some way, but I don't see her like running for any political office anymore. I think that has passed. Like you said, when you go against Donald Trump, that's like the end for you. Like that's honestly the end for you. So I think that she unfortunately is not someone who is going to run in 2028. I don't think she is, but if there was anyone that I would want from the Republican side, it would probably be Nikki Haley. So I think I'm glad that you said that. Let's throw in Republican
Let's
in the
throw
mix.
in one Republican
Let's
just
throw
to
in
be fair.
one just to let's why not? And it shows that we want two healthy parties, right? We want
We
two
do want
healthy
two healthy
parties.
parties.
I mean, we can have beliefs that are more aligned with the Democratic Party and still want two healthy parties. So if a vote for Nikki Haley for a moderate Republican, means that the Republican Party is further away from MAGA, then I want all moderate Republicans, if there is a chance that Nikki Haley runs, please support her if she runs. I don't think she will, but if let's just say hypothetically, of course, if she runs, I need all the moderate anti-MAGA Republicans to stand behind her so that we can get back to having two healthy parties. It is incredibly
Yes.
important. So
Yes.
let me go to my five. So my five is actually Andy Bashir, the governor of Kentucky. So yes, he is my number five. So he is 100% shadow campaigning. No doubt in my mind. He has been doing a lot of press, and he is no doubt in my mind shadow campaigning. He's going to different events across the country. He went to Al Sharpton's National Action Network convention, which was honestly like the hub for like everyone who is planning to run in 2028. He was one of the speakers, and he got a lot of great feedback from his time at the convention. But he is a moderate Democrat in a red state. And
Yes,
he
yes. That
is
is one of his biggest strengths.
that is one of his biggest strengths. And he honestly is definitely a populist as well, right? And I think that definitely gravitates towards a lot of voters, right? I mean, he is definitely running for president in 2028. So in my opinion, it's not a maybe. He is definitely running for president. And I do think that it is important to have a Democrat, especially if you're running in 2028 after Trump's second term and all the damage that he did. I think that is important, in my opinion. And I know people are going to disagree with me, but I think it's important to have someone run who has history of winning in red states, right?
Yeah,
More likely they're
I think
going to
that's
be a moderate. Yeah, more likely they're going to be a moderate and not necessarily a progressive Democrat socialist. But I think, especially if we want to combat Donald Trump and MAGA and JD Vance and all those people, if we want to combat that in 2028, we it is wise for us to back someone who has a history of winning in a red state. I
completely
think
agree.
it is very important. Electability matters. And the,
Electability does matter.
and the fact that he was able to win in Kentucky, which is a red state, okay, like low key is very problematic at times, right?
Yeah,
But the fact that he was able to win in Kentucky says a lot, and I think that he has a really good chance of galvanizing moderate independent voters who lean more Democratic, right? So I
yeah,
think that he has a chance of getting those voters. And I think he honestly, out of the five I even selected, I think he has the best chance of doing that, in my opinion. The reason why I have him as five is because there are candidates I personally would love to see president.
yeah.
And I'm not like envisioning Andy Bashir like, oh, I just want Andy Bashir to, run for president. Like it's not
For
like
this
a dream.
practicability.
Right. Like it's not, his electability is important to me, right?
Speaking
Um
of which, if it wasn't Nikki Haley and he wasn't currently running for a Senate seat in Texas, James Tallarico would probably be a number 5 pick for me.
yeah.
I definitely think, even though I staunchly oppose Christian nationalism. So I
Yeah.
think someone who is able to preach a healthy if people want Christianity, at least let it be a healthy type of
Like a
Christianity.
James Tallarico, right. Literally like a James Tallarico candidate. He is a Christian man who is very, you know, Democratic. He is a Democratic candidate. I don't consider James Tallarico moderate, but he's definitely like a classic liberal Democrat who is
He's a
staunch in his faith. And I think that he could get a lot of independent voters as well, James Tallarico, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Before I reveal my next person, I have to let my cat out of this room. Give
No,
me
you're
one
good.
second.
You're absolutely good. You're absolutely good. And while you're doing that, I'm just gonna say I think that someone like Andy Bashir shouldn't be underestimated. I mean, he is someone that has fought for Democrat policies. I think that he's someone that a lot of even anti-MAGA Republicans who have never backed Trump, I think they would vote for Andy Bashir. But he also has supported a lot of Democratic policies. He views healthcare as a fundamental human right and has aggressively defended and expanded Kentucky's Medicaid expansion. So he is someone who has fought for healthcare for all, but not necessarily Medicare for all the policy, but he is a firm supporter of the Affordable Care Act. He is an ally to the LGBTQ plus community. He heavily supports Planned Parenthood and reproductive freedom for all, and he's doing all of that in a red state. So I think that he's someone that we should really be thinking about, in my opinion. So,
Yeah.
so what's your number 4?
All right. When it comes to number 4, I gotta give it up to Gretchen Whitmore. For my Midwestern folks, fellow Midwestern folks.
Yes, yes.
He is the 49th governor of Michigan and has been in Michigan since 2019. And she is someone who, for me, very much has proven that she is a very pragmatic and effective leader. In the fact that she is a Democratic governor who has consistently won in a swing state. Michigan has been a swing state for a long time, shows that she has electability, as we said, is an important factor. And just when it comes to her policies, she is someone who is very focused on expanding infrastructure and education, two of the things that I think are extremely vital when it comes to the success and improvement and betterment of our country. So I think having her pragmatic leadership style in the White House would be 100% beneficial to this country. Of course, as I think, honestly, it might be revealed through my list, even though I'm probably going to get flamed by MAGA incels, and the fact that I am someone who studies political science and knows political realities, and the fact that our country is not ready for people of color or women to be in the presidential office. I support the idea of a lot of women being president. I'm not here to try and be a pick me or preach, but I think that it is very, very important to have someone with her pragmatic leader style in office, regardless of her gender. It is imperative that we have someone who has a strong leadership style, who has proven that she is capable of getting both sides of her state to come back and support her. And I think Gretchen Whitmer has both the experience, the leadership style, and the type of policies that I want to see. That puts her on my list of top 5 individuals to run for president of the United States. I would love to see her run. And if it's not in 2028, maybe when America is more open-minded, then in the future, I would love to see her run too.
Honestly, I was contemplating having her on my list because she's not on my top 5. And the reason why is, for some reason, I don't see her ever running for president. I just feel like if she was, she would have already ran for some reason.
That's completely fair, yeah.
So I just don't see her ever running for president. So because I don't ever see that for her, and I don't think that she's really shadow campaigning anymore, I think she kind of was teetering, but now I don't really think she is. I just don't see her running, but she would be such a good option. Like everything you laid out, she would be such a good option. And
she would be a great option. I would love to see her run. And I've got to support Midwestern candidates as someone from the Midwest, Michigan.
I would love to support my Midwesterners through and through. And if I felt like she would run like for office, if I felt like she would run for president, I feel like I would have had her in my top 5. But I just don't see her running for president for some reason. I just feel like she's good where she is, and I just
isn't that I know this pick completely contradicts what I said about JB Pritzker and Josh Shapiro, where it is, if you're a governor and you're doing well, I don't see you running for president.
Yeah.
But she's just someone who I see as a very, like I said, I know I keep using the word, but pragmatism is a super important skill, especially in the world of politics. And her focus on infrastructure and education, which are two of my biggest policy concerns. Her focus on there just made it so she had to be on my list.
I support that, and I wholeheartedly agree. And if I felt like, there was even a little bit of a chance, I would have her on my list. And she would probably be even my top 2, honestly, because I really think that she is an incredible governor. And I think that she has a lot of great potential to be president of the United States. She's such a good communicator. I think that she is I think she has a lot of charisma. I think she's a good public speaker. I think she's someone that a lot of people could get behind, because I think she's a really good public speaker. I think she would be great at, communicating her message and her campaign platform. I think there's a lot of positives about Gretchen Whitmer, but I just don't think that she's going to run for president. But let me tell you my fourth. So my number 4 is John Ossoff. So he is the senator of Georgia. He is 39 years old. And he has continuously been a viral internet sensation among Democrats. He draws millions of views on social media, especially for his rally clips of him criticizing this administration and specifically labeling this administration as corrupt. So he is young. He is great digitally. He has a lot of intentions to combat what the Trump administration has done. And he is someone who I think if he doesn't run in 2028, I think he's going to run in 2032. So
Oh
this
no,
is
I
a
think that's
guy.
running.
This is a guy that's definitely going to run for president. But also, what's important is that Georgia is a critical state. It is such a critical state.
It's a critical state, and as you said, like he is someone like he isn't just a politician. He is a filmmaker. Like he has knowledge.
100%.
He has knowledge of the digital. He has knowledge of the digital landscape that a lot of older politicians in DC don't have. That is
They don't have that
completely
at all.
vital to
It is so vital
being
right
a
now.
successful candidate in our
Yes.
current date and time. Like
It is so important.
he has the knowledge to gain the support he needs to be in office. And I could definitely see why you think that he's someone who is capable. He has the media knowledge. He is in a swing state. He has the know-how to get the support he needs to be in office.
And his grassroots fundraising, right?
His
He
grassroots fundraising.
really has just built a movement around him, right? And I do feel confident that he's gonna win in November. He is running for re-election, but I still feel like he's running in 2028. He has said he has no interest right now, but I think he's just saying that while it's the midterm cycle, right? Because he can't, run for senator and focus on the midterm cycle and then also say out loud, I have interest in 2028. I don't think he can really say that.
Yeah,
right?
no.
So I think that he's low-key lying, but not in a bad way, right? Not in a bad way.
Not in a
I
bad
think that
way.
not in a bad
He's
way.
just keeping his cards close to his chest.
Yes, he's focusing on winning in November. That is his primary goal. But for some reason, he's too out there against Trump and his administration for him to not want to run in 2028. That's just my opinion, right?
He is someone who, especially with his background in journalism, which you're not slick, Madison. I know why you, someone who's a journalism major, wants him to be in office, but he has a very, very prominent history, especially with the company that he's a CEO of journalism and anti-corruption and covering human war crimes that are going on abroad. Like he is staunchly anti-corruption. It makes sense why he would be someone who is equipped to go against the prevailing corruption within America right now.
It just would make the most sense for him to run in 2028. It just would. I think his primary focus is winning in November. And then I feel like in a few months after that, he's going to run for president. I really think so. I really do. I think it's going to be an Obama-ish situation. I really do. I feel like it's going to be an Obama-ish situation, and I think that he has a lot of potential. And like I said, Georgia is such a pivotal state. It is a battleground state through and through. And the fact that Ossoff is able to win in Georgia with its red/purple, right? I think that says a lot. And I think that he has a chance of galvanizing a lot of independent voters. I think he can galvanize pretty much all aspects of the Democratic Party, in my opinion. I think that Ossoff could galvanize the progressive voters, and I think that he could galvanize the moderate voters as well.
Speaking of Mr. Ossoff, it does perfectly segue into my number 3 choice because they actually work together a decent amount. My number 3 choice is Ralph Warnock. He is my number 3 choice for president. Okay. He is someone who focuses on voting rights issues. And as a black man who is staunchly focusing on voting rights issues, I just have to support him, and I can really see him running for office, especially with his background as I think, let me double check so I'm not spreading misinformation. He is in fact he is a Baptist minister. And like I said, even if I myself am not someone who is religious, I think that if we are going to combat Christian nationalism within America, we need to promote a healthy form of Christianity. And I think that even outside of being a minister, those skills for public speaking stick with you. He is a phenomenal public speaker. He is someone who is able to very well articulate what he's saying and what he's thinking. And that is the type of individual who's able to resonate with people and get them to go out and vote. And of course, just like with Ossoff, he is someone who is holding a seat in the deep south part of Georgia. Georgia is a swing state.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's able to continue to make an influence out there shows the fact that he has the ability to go out of his way to gain the support needed to stay in office. And of course, he's also someone, this is an issue, not to throw her under the bus, but me and Madison, of course, don't necessarily agree on this. Or no, we agree on it. We don't agree on the way it should be implemented, but he is someone who works really hard for healthcare affordability and providing opportunities to the working class. And healthcare, especially right now, is a big issue within this country, as we see health insurance companies are currently continuing to provide worse and worse insurance. And so we definitely need someone who is willing to stick up for what needs to be, in my opinion, a human right, which is access to healthcare. So I had to throw my support behind him. He is, of course, like I said, someone who's very focused on voting rights too. Gretchen Whitmore and or Whitner and Mr. Warnock are kind of the two candidates that kind of basically encapsulates, especially when we get into my top two, kind of my biggest priorities when it comes to the people I'm voting for, which is infrastructure, voting rights, education, healthcare. Those are kind of my top issues. So, of course, my top candidates kind of reflect an experience within those issues. So, yeah, Ralph Warnock is my number 3.
Awesome. So, yeah, Ralph Warnock is also shadow campaigning for sure, right? He is doing a lot of press. He is doing a lot of speaking engagements, right? So I definitely think that he is going to run for political office. And honestly, yeah, I do think he's going to run in 2028, right? I think that he has a very strong support system around him in the Democratic Party that I think that he would do good. I don't know if he's like the guy, I think it's gonna win, and I think that we need someone that's gonna win. But you could also say that for someone that I say is my top. So
I know. As we get this is a podcast. This is a podcast hosted by a Black woman, and you have a Black political science major on here. We know about the realities of intersectionality and the problems with racism, but our top candidates are going to be show a little bit of our biases and wishful thinking.
It's going to show, especially for me.
But like you said, he has a support network. Not to shamelessly plug myself, but I wrote an article for the Howard Hilltop on the impact that Black churches have on mobilizing voting turnout.
They have such a huge impact. Yes.
Especially Baptist churches. Black Baptist churches are tight-knit networks. He has 100%. That tight-knit network in his belt. And 100%. Even if he doesn't win, I promise you people will show out for him when it comes to the primary.
I think in the primary he would do really well. And I think that he has a lot of support in the Democratic Party. His support system is really strong. And I think that he does have a chance to galvanize voters. And he would do a great job galvanizing Black voters, especially Black Southern voters. I think he would do a great job at that. So that is a good pick for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So let me tell you my number 3. So my number
Right.
3 is Mr. Pete Buttigieg, right?
Oh,
Yes,
well, I
he is
guess we
my
should
number
just
3.
combine them because he's my number 2.
He's your number 2.
He's
Okay,
my
so
number
let me
2.
explain why he is my number 3. So Pete Buttigieg is a Democrat capitalist, which speaks to me, right? But he also has a lot of progressive values,
He
right?
is very
I
progressive.
He like is my type of Democrat, you know? Like he is my type of guy, you
I
know?
mean, he is
He is
very
like
much
basically
for
me.
he is he is very much for political reform in this country. I
Yes.
had the opportunity to get to hear him speak publicly at the Rainbow Push Coalition
Oh my gosh, yes.
like a week ago, and he says everything that I agree with to a concerning amount. I mean, when it comes to
Yes,
things like
he
political reform, getting money out of politics,
money out of politics. I mean, and
and
no, go ahead.
and if you want to talk about substantive performance, he was a very, very effective Secretary of Public Transport.
He was
Very,
100%. 100%.
and
And yeah, I think for me, like why he really speaks to me is because he advocates for issues such as, Medicare for all who want it. And I know you're gonna disagree with that, but I I love that he supports allowing others to keep their private insurance, and he opposes a mandatory single payer system, which I also oppose a mandatory single payer system. He is someone who supports having a government run public option that is strong, that is going to help, people in this country who to ensure that those people have access to healthcare, but allowing other people to keep their private insurance. And he supports a $300 billion plan to expand mental health services and decriminalize addiction. And that is something that
yes,
I
that is
also
very
support.
important.
That is something I also support. He is someone who wants a public option, but also doesn't want to force people into a mandatory single payer system. That is the perfect outcome for me when it comes to healthcare, right? I feel like he's a moderate when it comes to like the healthcare thing, right?
Mhm.
But he's a progressive when it comes to like a $15 minimum wage, a national paid family leave, stronger union bargaining power, right? So I think he has very moderate opinions because I would say that his healthcare stance is my stance, and I would consider that a moderate stance. But then he has more progressive stances with like the $15 minimum wage. And I also support his, proposed initiative allocating $10 billion to Black entrepreneurship, granting $25 billion to HBCUs, legalizing marijuana, and abolishing the death penalty and ending incarceration for simple drug possession. So he is
He
someone
is
that I agree with on almost everything. And the reason why he's not my number 1 is because I need him to serve in one more position
fair.
before
He
I can
needs
be
he
like,
needs a
that's
little
my
more
guy.
experience.
He needs
Yeah.
he just needs a tad more experience, just a tad. I just want him in one more position, one more political office position, right? That is
No,
what I want. And
I
then I
completely
will be
understand
like,
that.
Buttigieg, and then I'll be like the number 1 supporter of Buttigieg, right? Because I like agree with like everything that he stands for.
No, me too.
Like,
That's why he's
I
my number
literally agree
2.
with I agree with everything. I just feel that he is someone that just needs one more office. What's the word I'm looking for? He needs to be in one more position, political office position, and then I would like be Pete is my number 1. I'm also worried about him being in a same-sex marriage, and I hate to say it, but I'm worried about that because
Gay man with 2 Black children.
with 2 Black children, I'm worried about that. I'm worried about that. And I just feel that maybe in a few years, maybe when things, I don't want to say calm down, but maybe calm down a little bit. Maybe if like someone else is president who is a Democrat, maybe like I don't even want to. My first choice or second choice, I'm gonna tell you obviously later. But if those two win in 2028, I would want Buttigieg to run right after that and for him to win, right? So I just feel that he just needs to serve in like a cabinet position again, or even run for governor of Indiana or something. Do something, and then I would want him to be the nominee for
There's
Democratic Party.
no denying he is a phenomenal he's a phenomenal public speaker. His tenure as the transportation secretary was very successful. When they came to both their infrastructure policies and the fact that you can now get a full refund for a flight. He is someone who I think, especially to his credit, is one of the only Democrats who, on my list, is openly talking about the fact that the Democratic Party, especially after what Donald Trump has done and the amount of executive power he has usurped, the fact that we can no longer go back to how things are. And he is willing to have that discussion.
He is willing to have it. And he's someone who goes in conservative spaces often. And I like that. I like Democrats who go in conservative spaces and calls out their BS. I like that. He is what Gavin Newsom wants to be when it comes to that, right? Gavin Newsom is the guy that brings in conservatives just to be like, yup. Buttigieg goes into conservative spaces and he is to challenge them, to combat against the lies, to combat against the misinformation that the conservative is spreading, right? That is what Buttigieg does often. He did a Jubilee Surrounded video. He goes on Fox News all the time and combats against the lies. I love Pete Buttigieg. He would be my number one in like 4 years, but now he's number 3 because I just want him to have a little bit more experience. And then he would be my number 1 guy because I literally agree with everything he stands for. I agree literally with everything, like completely everything. I just do. Do I necessarily agree with $15 minimum wage right now? No, but I want the minimum wage to rise up, to get higher, so that by the time he's in office, we could gradually get to a $15 minimum wage. That's my stance on that. Like, I don't think I'm the person that's like, we can't go from $7.25 to $15. Like, we can't do that. So we need a Democrat in office to raise it up, and then hopefully by the time Pete Buttigieg wins, then he can raise it to $15. That's my opinion on that. So
no, I think that's a very practical approach.
Yeah. So your number 2 is Pete Buttigieg. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
I think he pretty much covered everything that I wanted to say about him. But there's also no denying that he is out there currently. He is in the public sphere. He has not disappeared. Even if he is not currently in office, he is actively going out and supporting Democrats and combating against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So Buttigieg is definitely someone that I think everyone should pay attention to. He's going to continue to make an impact.
100%. I'm so excited for him and his future.
The interesting thing is my number 1 probably falls somewhere on your number 2 or number 1. So I'm just going to have you go and say your number 2.
Yes. Okay. I don't know if my number 2 is on your list, but maybe it is. I don't know, because I don't remember us ever having a conversation about this person. So my number 2 is Mark Kelly. He's my number 2. He is my number 2. Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona is my number 2. And I'll explain why. He also is shadow campaigning through and through. He is doing a lot of press. He's doing a lot of speaking engagements. He's on CNN like every week, right? He is constantly out there. He governs as a pragmatic moderate who balances a strong independent streak, particularly on border security and energy. But he also votes with Democrats 95% of the time. So he is someone who, for the state of Arizona, he has had some times where he has voted independently from the party, but he is someone who majority of time
he has a lot of support. He has a lot of support, like you said, like I said, with Whitner. Pragmatism is very important, and
So
problem
important.
solving is very important.
Yeah,
And especially with
yeah.
and especially with someone who has military experience, he is someone who, if in the Oval Office, I am confident can make great decisions when it comes to foreign affairs and internal affairs.
Oh, 100%. And he is someone who, like I say about Andy Bashir, I think he is someone I actually see being president one day.
No, he looks like a president. He
he
has that. He
looks
has that
like
energy.
he has the energy of a future president because he is a senator from Arizona, right? And he is someone who won in Arizona as a Democrat. And like I said about Andy Bashir, that is incredibly important. Electability, like I said before, matters, right? So Senator Mark Kelly winning in Arizona and, having independent voting, decisions that, weren't necessarily with the fray, I think could actually benefit him because I think that could galvanize independence. For example, when it comes to the border, I don't necessarily agree with like his stance on the border completely. Completely. Yes, I agree that we should have a border, but I don't the whole Lake and Riley Act, I feel like was kind of like, let's not pass the original immigration bill that Biden and the Democrats that were in office at the time. Let's not pass that immigration bill to make Republicans look good. But here's the Lake and Riley Act to blame the Democrats for what has happened and all the murders and all that. And I don't like that he signed to pass that. I don't love that. But I think that can help him at the same time because I think independents who feel like there's a immigration crisis or was an immigration crisis under Biden and, they feel like there's a change under Trump, but they don't necessarily like everything he's doing, they would vote for Mark Kelly, I think. I think that some of those independents who agree with some of Trump's policies but don't agree with everything, I think those voters will vote for Mark Kelly. And I'm someone that strongly believes in the importance of independent voters. I strongly believe in the power of independent voters because a lot of independent voters either stay home or they just, let me vote for maybe Trump, maybe, whoever. The strong enthusiasm of independent voters are very, yes, the strong enthusiasm of independent voters is incredibly important. And I think Mark Kelly has that ability. He did pass the sign to pass the Lake and Riley Act. But what I agree with him is that he criticized Donald Trump. He blamed Donald Trump for sinking the bipartisan border bill, which I just referenced. And he actively supports the DACA program, the Dreamers program. So it's like he's the best of both worlds, right? So he is someone that I feel Democrats would back, but I also think that independent, who kind of, agrees a little bit with what Trump did, but not really. I think those people would vote for Mark Kelly, and those voters are incredibly important. And I also love how he's such an advocate for gun control, which is something that I support. And he was a key supporter of the bipartisan Safer Communities Act in response to the Uvalde school shooting. So once again, he is someone who, has progressive views on some aspects, but has the moderate views on others. Also, he favors strengthening the Affordable Care Act by introducing a government-run public health insurance option, but he actively opposes Medicare for all single-payer system, which is what I agree with. So I agree with a lot of his policies. I don't love that he signed the Lake and Riley Act, but almost everything else I agree with Mark Kelly on. He's kind of my type of guy, like Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg is my kind of Democrat, kind of like Mark Kelly is my type of Democrat. But I think that he is someone who is more likely to gain independent voters than even my first choices. But that's why I have him as my number two.
He is definitely out of the two white men options, I am definitely more the two white straight Christian male options. He is definitely my pick over Newsom. 100%.
Oh, 100%. 100%. He is 100% my pick over Gavin Newsom, 100%. I mean, yeah, he's not flip flopper like Gavin Newsom. He is a senator of Arizona, which no one says anything bad about Arizona. You can't really say, "Oh, Mark Kelly, you've done a horrible job in Arizona." No one says anything bad about Arizona. There's nothing to really pick at. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing to really,
They
you
do
know.
have 3 time zones, though. He might lose some points on that.
Maybe that. You're right. You're right. But other than that, no one really has anything to say about Arizona. So I do think that he's a good option. So
And before you say your final pick, the last thing I will say about Mark Kelly, I'm not endorsing anyone, but I will say, especially when it comes to our foreign entanglements, someone who is a soldier is more likely to treat soldiers like humans instead of
that's so
pawns in
true.
war.
That's so true. And that is so I feel like that has like that, relatability. I'm a military man, astronaut, white guy. I think he could get
Astronaut.
yes, yes. Like I'm telling you, he's done a lot of things. I think that the white folk I think they would get behind Mark Kelly. And I think he could do a good job of galvanizing black voters, but I also think he would do a good job of galvanizing independents, moderate Republicans. I think that he is someone who all around could get a lot of votes. And I see him running for 2028. I see him running for president in 2028. So but I want you to say your number one first and foremost.
All right. My number one my number one pick for president, as unrealistic as it may seem to some, I would love to see the return of a complete political cycle finally, and unrestrained by the administration that she worked for. I would love to see the comeback of Kamala Harris.
Woo! Yes. That's my number one
We
too.
both went to Howard University. I'm sure that's come up multiple times. But
she is my number one pick as well, but I want you to go and explain why
so there is no denying that Kamala Harris is one of the most qualified people who've run for president.
Hello?
She has
100%,
a lifetime worth of experience, and I think the things that hurt her are things that aren't in her control. One, being a woman, one, being black, you can't control those. But it's also how restrained she was by the Biden administration and how screwed over she was by the limited time she got to make her case to the people. There are so many criticisms, as you should, for someone that you adamantly support, that I could levy towards Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris definitely and openly admitted that she fell to the idea that she had to act a certain way. She made some mistakes by ditching her attacks against what she called shrinkflation at the advice of Wall Street investors. She definitely made some crucial errors, but I would love to see her learn from those errors and come back, especially now that there is the fact that she pretty much called out everything that Trump is currently doing, from his cooperation to Russia, from the fact that he's gotten us into a war with Iran. She was able to call out every single thing that he did, and he did it.
You have no idea how happy I am that you said that, because I 100% agree with you. I believe that Kamala Harris is going to run for president in 2028. I think she's going to make a comeback, but I'm worried for her. I'm worried that she's not going to be someone that people are going to put their support behind because they're scared because she lost last time. But I am here to tell you why we need to back her again. People, let's just realize that 2024 was such a unique situation. It just was not a normal situation, right?
It wasn't.
She had 107 days to run for president. Okay. So I want all the people who are worried about her, and I have a lot of conversations with people that are like, no, she shouldn't do it. I do. Because they're worried because she lost the first time and she is a black woman, right? And a South Asian woman, right? Like, I just need people to understand that if we put our support behind her in the primary, and she learns from her mistakes, like you said, she can win. She had 107 days to campaign and only lost by 2 million votes. Republicans will say that it was a landslide victory. It was not a landslide victory. She lost by only 2 million votes. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote in 2016 by 3 million votes. Okay? So she only lost by 2 million votes. And she galvanized a lot of energy in her campaign for a short amount of time. But she has to separate herself from the Biden administration in
Does 100%.
order to remain a successful candidate option and a successful candidate. And like Biden's polling right now is low. I mean, Biden is not viewed favorably by the American public. So she has to separate herself from the Biden administration in order to have a successful candidacy. Okay, it is pivotal. It is important, right? And I want us to give women and Black candidates at least a chance to thrive.
Me
And
too.
she wasn't given a fair chance in 2024. So I don't think we should compare 2024 and be like, well, she lost. Like, it just wasn't a normal and fair situation for her. It just wasn't. And I want to give women and Black candidates a chance to succeed and to thrive. So I want us in the primary. If you support her, to vote for her in the primary, okay? Please don't say, oh, I'm worried because she's a Black woman, so I'm going to vote for Gavin Newsom. No.
Yes, don't
Please,
do that.
please, you have to put your support behind her so that she has a possibility of winning a primary. And then we can galvanize even more to get more independent voters, to get moderate voters, so that she has a possibility to win. If she almost won in 107 days, she could win in a year and a half of campaigning for president of the United States. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I just feel that she was given the short end of the stick. I don't think that it was fair for her to be thrown into the situation and given 107 days to run for president. It was not fair. And I feel like the energy that was surrounding her campaign was so special. Imagine if she has a year and a half to run. That energy is going to go the distance if she has the time to go to all of the key, swing states, if she has time to go to all 50 states, shoot, right? So I think that we need to give her a chance. I don't like hearing, and I'm hearing a lot of people in my circle of friends and stuff. A lot of people are saying, no, like, I'm worried about her because she's a Black woman. She lost in 2024. Like, what's that going to say about 2028? I just want us to, obviously, we have to remember 2024 because, like, we can't just completely forget about that, but we have to now just move forward in 2028 and have like a new revived energy. We need to have new energy for her in 2028 so that she actually has a chance of making it over the finish line. It is so important.
Just like Rubio would do much better if he let himself off of the MAGA leash. Kamala Harris would do so much better if she let distance herself from Biden. And of course, there are going to be questions about her role as vice president. That's just how it goes when you're vice president.
But and that wasn't necessarily completely all her fault. And she would have the chance to explain that if she has time to campaign. And, if she had time to explain herself, that would have helped her, because a lot of people were like, well, what did she do as vice president? What did she do? She didn't really do anything. But if she has more time to explain and really talk about what she has planned for presidency, then I think that people would get behind her. I really do. I think that people are going to question her as vice president and the fact that she didn't do as much or whatever, right? But I genuinely think
she can if the polling is correct, now she can throw those criticisms back at
JD Vance. So don't talk about me and what I did or didn't do. Look at JD Vance right now. Hello. So yeah, 100%. You're 100% right about that. So I just want people to give her a chance. She was a very, very vocal advocate for reproductive freedom. And she is a champion of capping out of pocket prescription drug costs at $2,000 annually for all Americans and capping insulin at $35 a month. Those are policies that she championed during her campaign. And she is also someone who has made reducing America's maternal mortality rate, specifically addressing racial disparities in maternal care, a personal legislative priority, right? She also supports expanding tax credit, child tax credit. She supports affordable housing, corporate accountability. She's also someone who led the administration's voting rights push to promote the Freedom to Vote John Lewis Act, set to baseline national standards for ballot access and combat gerrymandering. She is also someone who has advocated for universal background checks, red flag laws, and a federal ban on assault weapons. She is someone with great policies, everyone.
Yeah.
So I just feel that she was given the short end of the stick. I think even during her 2024 campaign, she ran on all those policies, and they are great policies that I think will resonate with a lot of voters. But I mean, I'm just scared. I'm more so scared of all the people who are doubting her because of 2024 and doubting her because she's a Black woman. Because I'm scared that those people aren't going to vote for her in the primary, even though they like her policies, they like her as a candidate, but they're not going to support her because they feel like she's not going to win. When you have, it's the same with Jasmine Crockett and the Talarico thing in Texas,
100%.
with so many people not voting for Jasmine Crockett because they're like, oh, she's not going to win. You have to vote for the candidate that you want to win in the primary. That's the point of a primary.
You do. If we wanna,
That's
I
the point
agree.
of a primary.
I agree. Our democratic system is flawed, and the fact that people like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel have their hands in it is a problem. I'm not saying it's unsecure. I'm just saying there are reasonable concerns. But in my personal opinion, you can't have those concerns if you're not voting.
If you're not voting, you have to vote, people. It like the whole complaining and not voting thing is not gonna fly with me anymore. Okay, it's not gonna fly. If you're gonna be complaining about this, down, and the third, and you're not even gonna get off the couch and vote, I need you to not be complaining about everything that's going on. And those that voted third party, don't complain either, because you voted for Trump basically by voting third party. So, but you have to vote in the primary. Please, please, people, if you resonate with Kamala Harris and her policies and what she stands for, and even just her story coming from immigrant parents, as an HBCU student, as an HBCU graduate, right? Like, like you said, she is probably one of the most qualified candidates, arguably the most qualified. Well, I think Hillary Clinton was very qualified. Like, I think Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris are on the same level as the most qualified candidates to ever run for president, right? And they were both women, right? So Kamala Harris is very qualified to be president of the United States. MAGA's gonna say she's not. She is. She is. She's very qualified. And I just need people to stop with the whole, oh, and she's a Black woman, she's not gonna win, so let me vote for Gavin Newsom. No.
Yes.
No. And I'm scared that's gonna happen, Eli. I actually am scared that's gonna happen because I'm having too many conversations.
Like you said, with even if Jasmine Crockett had her problems, the fact that a lot of people weren't voting for her because she was a Black woman.
That is problematic. You in the primary, that's your time to tell the party who you want to be the nominee. The primary is your voice. Who do you want to be the nominee? That is what the primaries are for. Okay? Like, you have to vote for who you want to vote for in the primary. Okay? And then when that person ends up winning, hopefully, right? Then do whatever you can to ensure that she wins the general election. That's it's just so important. So she's my number one. I want her to make a comeback as well. And I just want everyone listening to know, please don't be discouraged by just because she's a Black woman. In the primaries, you'll see that she'll run on the same things I listed and even more. And I think that she is someone who would be an incredible president. And she's a Howard Bison. Woo!
So yes, of course we gotta support her, but I agree.
And she's my soror. And she's my soror.
And there's just part of Madison soror. So,
like, I just really want her to be president. So
before I think that she deserves I think she deserves a clean slate.
I think she does too. She deserves a clean slate. She deserves a clean slate so bad. But before we go, I want us to look at one more thing. Let me pull it
Yeah,
up.
let's do it.
One more thing, and I'm gonna pull up who people are predicting to be the actual winner in 2028. So let me pull that up. And I just am very curious to see what your thoughts are on these predictions. So here they are. So these are the predictions for who is going to win the presidency in
Okay.
2028. So we have JD Vance,
Why
Marco
is
Rubio.
JD Vance so high, guys?
I'm confused. Guys, y'all really betting on JD Vance? Okay, technically, yes, bet on him being the nominee. Bet on him being the nominee. Spend that money. Spend that money because you're probably gonna, you're probably gonna get that money back, right? But to be the winner, guys. And then there's Gavin Newsom, John Ossoff, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Tucker Carlson.
Tucker Carlson is on there.
Oh my
Madison's
gosh.
theory is strong so far.
I really feel like my theory is so strong. And then we have Josh Shapiro, Andy Bashir, Mark Kelly, Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump. Once again, why are y'all betting on Donald Trump? He can't run for president again, people. JB Pritzker, John Jr., Wes Moore is someone who we haven't really talked about, but I don't think he's running for president yet. I think in the future.
In the future.
Hunter Biden.
That would be interesting.
Hunter Biden, are we serious right now, people? And then we have a Tulsi Gabbard, Gretchen Whitmer.
Stephen A. Smith. Why wasn't he on either of our lists?
Okay, Stephen A. Smith need to go away. No. Stephen A. Smith needs to stick to sports. Okay, Stephen A. He loves the attention being on him. He's not running for president in 2028, but he loves the attention that people are even mentioning him in the mix. He loves that attention and that he loves it. Right. This is probably the best time of his whole entire career because people are mentioning him to be president in 2028. Oh my gosh. No.
It gives him
no
a
one
lot
wants
of publicity.
It gives him a lot of publicity. So I think that this is the best time of his career. I do. Because people are mentioning him and it's annoying. Okay. Don't focus on Stephen A. Smith, people. We have real candidates that we need to back people, not Stephen A. But this is very interesting. Rebecca's pretty low on this list right here.
Yeah.
The fact that Stephen A is higher than Vivek Ramaswamy is
definitely
kind of
a bit of a contrast to the polls we looked at.
No, for sure. Because I'm curious to see if this is going to change. I'm not surprised that Gavin Newsom is the number one for the Democrat side, here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But they have JD Vance and Marco Rubio ahead of Gavin Newsom and John Ossoff and all that. So that's very
you really want another Republican presidency, guys?
No, not me. Not me. Seriously, it's so irritating. It's absolutely irritating. But we'll keep following this and we'll see if anything changes in the coming months. Yeah. So thank you so much, Elijah, for joining me today. This was such an eventful conversation.
It was very enjoyable.
This is going to be 2 parts. So for those who are going to start by watching this first part, just know that this is going to be 2 parts because this was a great, long, and eventful conversation. And I'm just so excited to keep exploring this, in the coming months and seeing, if there's any new names that come up or any names that start to dwindle out. I'm very excited to see that. So thank you, Elijah.
But thank you for having me. Yes. I hope everyone who's listening enjoyed listening to me ramble on, but it was a fun time.
Thank you so much. And he's going to be back on the show, everyone. Expect the whole Democrat socialist versus Democrat capitalist debate from us. Okay, please. That's coming soon. So thank you so much. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Power, Policy, and Progress with Madison Maynard. I really hope you enjoyed today's discussion. Be sure to continue to tune into my podcast, We always are talking about political news, analysis, and conversations about the issues shaping our country. In the meantime, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Power Policy and Progress Podcast. Follow me on TikTok at Power Policy Podcast Pod for online content. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please follow, subscribe, and rate the podcast 5 stars to show your support. And of course, join in on the conversation, leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on everything we discussed today. We had a lot of opinions on these potential candidates, so I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. So please, please, please comment below. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Madison Maynard, and you're listening to Power, Policy, and Progress. I'll see you next time.